three of the most useful words for any of us to remember every single day in business. And they were very simply, act with audacity. And I love the idea of audacity. It's so cheeky, it's so energizing, it's a brilliant call to action.
So welcome to the Who's Elvis Round Here podcast. This is where I get to meet some fantastic folk from around the world to understand what makes them tick and how they get the genius out of their people. So this is about leadership, culture and energy. And therefore, what a great guest I've got this week. So Sophie, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here. Looking forward to talking.
So can you explain to our listeners a little bit about who you are so they get some context?
So I am a connector, a writer, and the CEO of the Marketing Society. And the Marketing Society is the global community of influential marketing leaders. And we bring together marketers who mean business to make a difference in this world. And I am also the author of two books. One is called Superfast, Lead at Speed, and is all about how do we get the pace right? How do we as leaders deal with the fact that this is a super fast world? And the second book, which I wrote with my friend Ben Renshaw, is called Love Work. So it's the 7 steps to thrive at work. So I'm really interested in the topics we're discussing today, in energy and the importance of that in business, and in how we can live and work in a way that is enjoyable in our very short, one wild and precious life.
Hell yeah. So you're the perfect fit for this pod. You really are, Sophie. So I'm really looking forward to getting to this. So very good to have you here. So the first question, what is the story that you love to tell that people love to hear?
Well, I love telling lots of stories because I'm so lucky that with what I do, I get to speak to lots of different business leaders. I'm interviewing them, we share their stories on stage, and it's the best way to bring things to life and expand the perspectives of what great leaders can achieve. But my favourite story that I love to tell is actually one that isn't a modern contemporary business leader, but is about a change maker who was around in the 19th century. Somebody who absolutely transformed a whole category and in very unexpected ways and with really quite challenging times. So I think she's a brilliant example of what we talk about in the Marketing Society as change makers, those people who are leading the conversation in business, who can have an impact, who can make a difference in this world. So she was called Barb Considine-Clicquot, I think her name was. Her husband died. She was left with this business, this champagne business, at a time when women really did not have roles in business. She decided to take it over and not only to lead this business, but to totally transform the category, to deal with revolution and war. She had so many challenges in her life, but she went on to really create a whole category that we now know. Incredible story of business success, of creativity and strength. And this is the story I love to tell, Chris, because on her deathbed, she wrote to her granddaughter. And she left her with some advice in this letter, which I think is incredibly relevant for those of us in business today who really do want to make a difference with the time we have at work and with the organizations that we run. So the widow, Veuve Clicquot, wrote to her granddaughter, "The world is in perpetual motion." And this was, I think, 1830 or whatever. So,
Right.
Even more relevant now. "The world is in perpetual motion. We must go before others and lead with intelligence." And then her final words, I think, are three of the most useful words for any of us to remember every single day in business. And they were very simply, act with audacity. And I love the idea of audacity. It's so cheeky, it's so energizing, it's a brilliant call to action for all of us who face fear all the time. And she's a great example of what a difference that could make. So I love that idea of her passing that down through the generations, female leader to her granddaughter, to all of us today. So motto and story of the hour is this idea that really we can do incredible things, whether we've got all the challenges of war and sexism or whatever's going on, if we act with audacity.
I love it. And it's quite hard to be audacious in business, isn't it, all the time? There are so many factors that that actually can constrain us and keep us a bit small. I always hear, people say, "Oh, you've got to be a bit braver, got to be a bit bigger." But the audacity has a bit more energy about it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit more of a battle cry, I think.
And the bravery point is really important. So Thomas Barter, who's a fellow of the Marketing Society, has done some great writing about this and talks a lot about bravery in marketing and, really playing down the fear and playing up the purpose to be brave. And then there's courage. There are different words that are all about the human you making a difference in difficult times. However, audacity, there's just a little bit of humour in it, the very British cheekiness almost.
A bit of mischief.
Exactly. I think there's a bit of mischief. And I'm sometimes a bit cautious because I think there's quite a tech bro. Hey, you've got to be a rebel. Hey, you've got to completely be audacious. And actually, I think you can do incredible things within a corporate framework, within a place where you can be responsible as well as responsive to challenges and opportunities. But you do need to have a little bit of courage, a little bit of bravery, and a lot of audacity if you want to do things differently and if you really want to succeed when things are moving so fast and so complicated and the world is in perpetual motion.
Yes, I'm quite stimulated by that. So I'm a big fan of reflection and getting to the end of the day or the end of the week and going, hey, so what have I done? And I think for the next few weeks, I'm going to put a little overlay on that, which is, what have I done that's audacious? Because actually, I think if I did, I would have a bigger smile on my face and a bit more swagger and a bit more. Because I think we do take things a bit too seriously, and there's something about that makes me want to grin.
Put it on with your to-do list. And actually, I'm the same as you. I've found it really helpful recently to do a to-do list at the end of the week. That reflection. Have I done the things that I wanted to do? And check in with some friends to see if I'm moving in the right direction and doing that. And completely, we need a little bit more. Are we doing something that stretches us? Are we doing something that we are fearful of, but we just give it a go?
Yeah, I totally agree. So, look, you've got a really lovely touch and feel when it comes to people. So, what is the single most important factor in releasing the genius of people, do you think, Sophie?
I don't know if there's a single most important factor, but I think it's one that we often underestimate. So I'm extremely serious about business and always have been, right? I started my career at Procter & Gamble, at Coca-Cola. I love the importance of business in an economy, for an organization. I'm very serious about the data and the analysis. And I'm very serious about teams who work with me being high performance and working well. But that whole taking the business seriously and not taking ourselves too seriously, I think is hugely underestimated. So perhaps my suggestion would be just to remember that if we make it fun, it's more likely to get done. And that sense of, we've talked about mischief there, maybe not mischief, but just the playfulness and the gamification that you can have in business somehow releases a lot of positivity and therefore creativity. So I think there's quite a lot of behavioral science which says if you start a meeting telling everybody that sales are down and we're really struggling in the economy and whatever, people get defensive and they are unable to be innovative because they're actually just defending themselves because there's no positivity there. So if we can infuse some positivity in play, we get a bit more of the what if and could we, and sometimes work can be hard work. So finding ways to play and make it a little bit enjoyable, I think should not be underestimated right now.
No, it's massive, isn't it? And look, a third of our days on this planet are work days. If we're not loving them, it's a shocking waste of life, I think. And yet in business, I think because we have these roles and there's big pressure and there's big goals and we don't have enough hours in the day, it's very easy for us to get into that over-serious delivery mode. And we forget some of the humanity. I was just talking to a good friend of mine who was kind of head of OD for all these big businesses. And she's just started to do a few different things that are a little bit more flexible. So she's doing her own business and she's helping some other organisations. And one of them is a charity. And all the people that work there have already done their careers and they're now volunteering their time. And she said, the energy is so different because nobody is about career progression. Nobody's about the next review and the bonus. They're just there because they want to contribute. And guess what? They're laughing every day and actually bringing more of themselves to play. So I thought it was
Interesting.
quite a refreshing spin. Is that because forced fun's no good, right? Forced fun's like, everyone's allergic to it. Have you got any tips for those listening on how to make sure that people are just a bit lighter and a bit more human and they're smiling a bit more every day?
Yes, and that bit of, I mean, having written a book called Love Work, you know, which is very tongue in cheek, we know we don't love work every second of the day, and that's impossible. But the word you used there was lightness, which I think is really important. So forced fun, no, you know, the bants that was once part of things is also very dangerous. However, humour is the most human part of work. I was told this by the amazing Beth Sherman, who is a 7 times Emmy award-winning scriptwriter and you know, an amazing humour consultant. She was a brilliant speaker at our Changemakers Conference, the Marketing Society's Changemakers Conference in Scotland last year. We run 6 each year around the world, bringing together change makers with these kinds of stories to help them. And it really struck me, Beth's point, which is AI cannot be funny. I mean, it really struggles. And if we're thinking about the bits we can do that AI can't and supplementing the tools of the modern age we have, humour is definitely one of them. And also just being human, a bit of lightness, a bit of levity, a bit of helping people through at appropriate moments is really tricky. And it definitely requires EQ. And you don't necessarily even have to be that funny. I mean, my kids certainly tell me I'm not funny. But I like the word lightness. I like the word illumination for leaders as well. How do we bring clarity and light when things can feel quite dark and difficult? So I think there is a responsibility there to bring that in and look at how we can enjoy what we're doing even more and allow people the feeling that they can feel good about work. They can feel good about the fact that we're in business, which is an incredibly interesting and important place to be.
It certainly is that. And you've heard me talk about the fact that we make the weather. And therefore, if we show up with a bit more lightness and a bit more fun and humanity, then I would hope that would rub off to our people. So, yeah, totally with you on that one. Now, look, because you've worked in lots of different businesses and you see lots of businesses because you've got clients from all over the place. Is there one thing that really gets your goat about how we traditionally do our work? And if so, what would be your remedy?
Well, just to go back to on the weather front, because it's a really important point. And as you were saying that, I was looking out the window where the sunshine is coming. So maybe a bit of Morecambe and Wise, bring me sunshine, is part of the lightness and the fun as well. So actually, sometimes that does get my goat when people just are frustrated by what's going on in their workplace and become grumblers, you know. Marketing, so we don't have clients, we have members, you know, our membership community, amazing people, right? Some of the brightest voices in marketing. They tend to be ambitious, dynamic, generous, amazing people. But they do work in an industry which can be challenging, right? A profession which sometimes has its challenges. But you really see the difference with people who have the ability to see how privileged they are, how lucky they are, and to see that side of it all. So I'm not saying we should never complain and we should never grumble. However, you know, we are very lucky people compared to lots of other people. We're not going down the pit every day. We are paid to do things. You know, there is a little bit of an attitudinal approach where sometimes I think a bit more of an attitude of gratitude can help. So maybe that's just also the optimist in me, that I think I'm surrounded by stories of incredible things that are made possible in business. And I meet and interview these leaders who completely transform organizations despite all the adversity there. So perhaps that lightness and the sunshine is in attitudes at work and is finding a way to figure things out. Because there is always a way to find it. But you can only do that if you've got the optimism and if you're able to keep things in perspective a little bit as well.
Yeah, for sure. And there is something contagious about that kind of negativity. I mean, I know when we're negative, it keeps us safe. It's a way that means that we can connect with each other, because when we want to have a moan, we moan together. But it's one of those things that it becomes a bit of a cancer in a business if you're not careful. And I was just talking to a media company yesterday, brilliant media company. They do amazing things. And the leader I was talking to was saying that just everybody is down. Everyone is stuck. And when you get into that mode, you can't see possibility. You don't connect up well. You know, there's no lightness and fun to it, no bounce. So it becomes really difficult. And yet, the contrary happens. I remember the first time I walked into Seven Stars, the media agency. I came into reception and I could feel the buzz. It was palpable, the difference. Yeah, and it all comes down to, I think, how leadership show up, how they focus people's talent on the stuff that counts, how they don't take themselves too seriously. But you just need enough people, I think, agitating in that way for everyone else to go, actually, I want to be like that. That other way, I'm not having it. And I'm a big believer in it, because I think when you get the positivity happening, that's equally contagious. But it does take some people to step out and own it, right?
Yeah, and it's scary. It's much easier to say this is too difficult and we're never going to get there. And, you know, look at all the reasons why we will fail. Because, you know, actually that is very protective. And you feel like you're being realistic and sensible and so on. But then you hear the stories of what people can do, and that piece of, if you say you can, if you say you can't, either way you'll be right. And I have, you know, written and spoken a lot about getting the pace right. So actually, one of the reasons why people are succeeding is because they are set up to be able to go, that's not quite right. We'll redirect there, or where's the opportunity here? And so there is a sense of energy there as well. If we say, well, things may not be as easy as they once were in that field, what can we do here? So finding ways through can also help with showing people the light and helping us feel that things are possible. Because the worst thing is not to try. You know, to say it's too difficult, we are giving up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, it is a complicated world, but I like your kind of the deftness of being able to change direction and learn as you go and not get too wedded to things. Because if you do, you know, it's a difficult life right now. You have to have that kind of experimental kind of attitude, I think.
Yeah.
So you always strike me as quite a hopeful person. So I think this question should land well. What gives you hope, Sophie?
Well, I'm also smiling because you're talking about the deafness. I did see some, I mean, I don't even know where it came from, some Instagram light or whatever thing this week, which I really loved, which was, you know, your sat nav never says you got it wrong. Your sat nav says recalculating route. So that's definitely something that gives me hope. The fact that we can always find a way. And one of the most effective ways in which I keep my hope levels topped up is by stories. It's where we started in this conversation. The stories that, you know, our mission at the Marketing Society is to expand the perspectives of what great leaders can achieve, to show the marketers who mean business how to drive and accelerate responsible business growth by sharing the stories of others. So what gives me hope is when I see, you know, our inspirational marketing leader of the year from Marks and Spencer, Sherry Crammond, telling us what they did to transform the business on stage. Or it's when we bring in Yinko Ilori, who's this incredible architect of joy artist, who talks about what he's done in his career to bring joy to the world. So the stories of what humans can achieve, what businesses and change makers can achieve, constantly remind me that anything is possible with the right attitude, with the right approach, and with just getting on and getting it done.
Yeah, and surround yourself by stimulus. I think, you know, and you do this really well. You know, so the people you're mentioning there, that's just a small subsection of all the people you hang out with, and actually where we hang out and who we hang out with makes a huge difference, I think, to our energetic setup. I was just hearing a lovely story about Bowie got stuck with his writing, and he just couldn't write, and he was all over the place. Over the years, he became friends with Bono, and he phoned Bono and said, "Look, I'm stuck. What should I do? You know, there's no way I can write like I used to." And Bono just said, "Well, that's because you live in Switzerland." and the next day, apparently, he moved to New York and started writing again. So, you know, we need the stimulus of the right people around us for the work that we do. That's not being derogatory to Switzerland, obviously. But if you're writing about edge in life and stuff, then, you know, rolling vistas and mountains are probably not going to stimulate you. You need to be around the people who've got the edge. And Brilliant. It's the same for business, right? You know, we need those people that see things differently to get that inspiration.
But one of the things, if you go back to the things that I feel are a little frustrating or a little sad right now, there are so many people who are so busy in business, and I get that, they really do. They aren't making time for that stimulus. They aren't making time to learn. So, you know, our big point that we bring to organizations, we bring the outside in, we bring those stories in, we bring the insights and the inspiration. You've the best leaders of business that I've spent time with across the years, the most successful, make time every week to learn, to get that perspective, to get that input and insight in a time effective way. And yes, it's easy if you just move country, but there are other ways in which you can bring in those stories and that stimulation. I love that.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, it's the stuff that makes life really interesting, isn't it? New people, new ways of thinking, and if we're not learning, we're stuck, right? So it's been great having you on. So what's coming up that's exciting for you, Sophie? Because I know that usually your diary is full of adventures.
Sorts of exciting things happening at Marketing Society. We have just celebrated our 10-year anniversary in the UAE. So I was in Dubai last week celebrating that, and we're expanding into the GCC. We're doing all kinds of interesting things in New York, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Scotland, in London. Coming up, we're preparing for Navigate Now and Next, which is a series of one-day events looking at the tech and the tools of the modern age, the things that we can do that will help people. So right now, there is a little bit of mental overwhelm about what do I need to know, what's happening now, where do I need to be, and trying to get ahead. So bringing everybody together for one day in New York, in Dubai, in Scotland, and in London and Singapore, it's a great way to magnify and amplify everybody's brains and bring in all the insights to make that happen. So I'm very excited about Navigate Now and Next. And all we've got going on, the Marketing Society community is growing at pace. Some really smart, brilliant people, some great organisations becoming part of it. So it's a very exciting time for us. And I know there's much more we're going to be doing this year.
How very cool. Well, I've always enjoyed playing. You have a wonderful bunch of people there, and you are doing some really positive work to shift the world forward, which is what we need. And it's always fun. So thank you for bringing the lightness and the insight today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to playing again soon, Sophie.
A real joy. See you soon.